Hello.
Hello, everyone. Hello,
Hello,
dearest
everyone.
Miruna. Episode number 13, I believe.
18.
Wow,
18.
it's amazing. We have chosen to finish up with the topic of self-awareness today and discuss actually the differentiation, right? The discernment between a self-awareness that will serve your higher self and an awareness or something we tell ourselves that we think is awareness that actually is not going to serve your highest self. That comes from a um unaware consciousness, perhaps, or lower consciousness. We want to call it a certain name. So I'm gonna let my dearest friend Miruna, introduce us a bit about what she thinks, what she experienced from it, and yeah, we'll start from there.
Thank you so much for this beautiful introduction. I loved how you anchored it into in between the higher self and the lower self. Uh, what a great game of life we're playing in between those realms. Um, yeah, we were talking on how to continue the self-awareness conversation. I think it will really inspire many to check it for themselves. We always want to experiment and check it within, just to make sure that what we're talking about is actually true for everyone. Um, so we have some some of us have awareness of the higher self or of the higher consciousness, God, the universe, that usually tends to be an interconnectedness with everything and all and with the source. So it's a very macro view, right? It's a very encompassing view. It tends to be, it tends to feel loving, it tends to feel connected, it tends to feel light. In that huge, wonderful space, we as human beings and all our brothers and sisters, like human, I'm saying metaphorically brothers and sisters, all human beings, we can be aware of them as well in the connection, right? So that's a very feels elated, it feels expanded, it feels loving, um, feels light. In my experience, I imagine that in yours as well, when you're connected to the higher self,
Mhm.
right? You feel this expansion. And then there's the lower self. The lower self or the small self or the ego or the persona. So there's different names. What matters is not really the name. What matters is let's pinpoint it. What is it?
Mhm.
The identification with form, the identification with me. We can recognize this because I'm going to speak as I, I like Miruna, I, right? I want that, I don't want that. And if I'm confused with it, so if I just believe this is about me and I'm going to focus only on me to be so self-aware of myself, and I'm going to disconnect from others or from source or from the nature or from the universe, that's when awareness of self, over awareness of the small qualities of me or of the form, like an over awareness of the form, is actually self obsession, just a confusion that's what we call actually ego or a
Mhm.
person or a small self. It's
Self-importance.
which one?
Self-importance.
Self-importance, yeah, like an obsessive self-importance. It's not that I don't, of course I believe I'm important, I'm valuable, but then I believe that everybody else, if I am in a higher self-awareness, I believe the same for all. And I have the capacity normally to be able to check in with the other as well, keep my heart open, keep being empathetic to the needs, my needs, but also their needs, and just again keep that expansive awareness. If I'm confused with my ego and I feel emotions that are less elated, then there's a contraction. there's a contraction, there's a seriousness. This is how we kind of recognize, right? A seriousness, a separation, sense of separation. Okay, so this is me, this is you, and I don't see the interconnectedness. Okay, I just don't see it. It's like this is all about me, and then you do what you want, but I treat you like you're separate. So I'm not empathic. I don't have an open heart. Again, I'm contracted, and I'm just over focusing on my small me. So just to I would just lay the ground of the exploration of the awareness a bit like that, and I'll let you share with us about how you see it. Does it resonate? What else do you see in this exploration between the higher and the lower, right?
Yeah, I love it. Oh my goodness, you starting strong, girl. I love it. And you said so many beautiful keywords that I would love for us to bring forward in our description. But I think it's a continuous, when I mentioned battle, this is a continuous battle between the higher self, the lower self, how we call it, the big I, that's all encompasses all the universe, all the connectiveness, and the lower I, which is separateness, which is our own, which is isolated, right? I would say that of course, it does call out to me. And I would say on top of it that it is, it can be very confusing when you're starting to try to learn to discern where my thoughts and my realizations come from, because you have not been, let's say you have not been practicing self-awareness from the higher self, then you will experience some fear, discomfort, retraction, because your instinct is going to pull up mechanisms of defense, right? Because we talked about it, and I think it comes hand in hand. Everything connects, obviously, but it comes hand in hand with vulnerability. So I would say one of the signs is if you feel that you are stepping into your own vulnerability by yourself, and you're onto something, and it really, really touches the chords of vulnerability, real one, then you are onto a right path. This is one thing I would say that could help you indicate that you are onto a path of self-awareness from the higher self. And we welcome you to look it up, our episodes regarding vulnerability. What is it? What's the discernment with it? Then I believe with the previous episodes that asking ourselves the right questions open the doors to new ways of seeing things, perspective. So I really like what you said about the micro view, an unattachment of the experiencer, but becoming the observer. So I hear sometimes people say, yeah, I know I'm like that. Yeah, I don't know why, I always attract that type of man in my life. Or, oh, yeah, I know I have clearly daddy issues, quote unquote here. There's no judgment with that. And then all other people would say, like, they're telling me weird things about their patterns and the things, but that's it. They're kind of like became identified with it. And that's where that's where I feel like it's like a trap, because then you're like, oh, I know I'm like that. I know I have this pattern. I know I have fear of being abandoned. I know I'm like it. That's it, So in a way, you are being aware of that. You're being conscious of, things that has to be addressed. But in another way, there's a finality to it. And then you're just like, this is it. You stop there, and then you identify with those patterns or with those things that actually harm you over the long term, right? So I would say my keywords here is solution, right? So when you have a self-awareness that brings you toward or comes from the higher self, is it towards a solution? Is it towards an adaptability, a new way of becoming embodying this higher self, right? And the feeling you should experience later on, not necessarily the first time that you're experiencing the differentiation, is love and peace.
Yep.
This is keywords I have experienced personally, because being very cerebral, analytical, logical, we can say we're intelligent women. A lot of other people are very intelligent, and that's what's tricky, because we find ourselves finding a lot of justification and reasoning, and then we go on and on and on. It makes sense, it makes sense, it makes sense. But when you tap into your intuition and your inner self, how do you hold yourself emotionally and energetically and spiritually? You realize you're not feeling good. It doesn't sustain you. You're feeling tired, overthinking, over providing yourself justification after justification over your awareness, right?
Mm.
Whereas when you come from a over the state of the matter, you really dig inside within, you did this exploration within, you went through not easy emotions, which is obviously experience and feeling, because you went deeper within into your vulnerability, and then you have like, oh, now I connect and I see that I'm heard. I feel heard, because I don't like to say I am. I feel heard when that person did that, and I can connect it with something in the past, and it truly hurts me, and then I'm going to try to see how can I communicate it now. And then it's just like it brings you a sense of peace, but also love for understanding, love for yourself, love for the journey you're having, and compassion and love for others. I choose to forgive this person because, they were unaware at that time. They were in a social mass. They were taught what to do. And we talked about forgiveness also, and it's not about like, oh, it's okay what the person did, let's start over again and let's start it again. No, it's forgiveness, is from within. It's to allow yourself to leave space for love and peace. So those would be for me my, not only my personal experience, but obviously my expertise, what I've been observing, um, would be tools for you to help discern self-awareness from the different eye.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing those super important points of it's like you've guided us in a voyage of inner self-awareness between the high and the lower, the separated and the unifying. I love that you mentioned that you always feel peace and love. And it's automatically every single person when they let go and they become one with who they are, always peace and love. Actually, it just makes sense. Everybody on the planet Earth seeks for love. It's like we're seeking who we
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
I love that you said solution. So the other day, I had a beautiful download about Trinity. So every time, and that's a great exercise for self-awareness. Every time there's two parts, check it out, two parts of yourself battling, it's not the higher self and the lower self. It's your ego acting like it's a higher and your ego
Mm.
acting like it's the lower. I'll go
Mm.
further. This is a proposal. I'm not saying it's the eternal truth, but check it out. So when there's two parts, there's a separation. Obviously, that's the first cue. Oh, yeah, I'm something inside of me is acting as if there's two of inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
One is uh, pulling towards something, the other is pulling towards the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
It can begin like one wants to free and express and be loving. It can be that the first expression comes with the higher self. Usually, in my experience, it comes like that. And the other one is the more
Holding it
instinctive.
out.
No, 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 we're not going to do that. However, if they're battling, they've been tainted with a
Mm-hmm.
lower emotion. And that's where actually your higher self is the Trinitarian point, which is a solution point. which you bring back into whole, which can bring you back into whole.
Bring back.
And
Mm.
then we become united. So very often, and I can see it in the people that I have the joy to support in a company, it's like, but I don't know, on one side is this and the other side is this. I want that, but I don't know. There's always a third point, usually much illuminated, that we haven't yet seen. And that is what the higher self is illuminating, a new path, which hasn't yet been seen. And when we ask at the source, of course, not in the mind, at the source of our higher intelligence, show me the lighter path, or on the way, just the way of love versus fear, a new path emerges. So then the two parts are like, oh, I'm battling along. And it's sometimes it's kind of like the inner kids, like you, it's like your higher self can be a parental, higher, knowledgeable, wise. For us, we love to say, our Father who art in heaven. We have no problem with this terminology, even if we understand that God is not just a guy or a man.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the capacity to go beyond the word, but it is an authority of wisdom and love and all bliss that we trust. I say we because I know us too, we really, really trust that. And we talk to. And so when we kind of expose the childish, the fearful inner child that is fighting, or it's hiding, or it's fighting with the imaginary brother, inner child brother, then the Trinity can become the solution. Seek for the third higher point, and then bring us together in one. Then we become one with, oh, the separation was an illusion. Like we snap out of it. It was just fear that created a false separation. You were monologuing, and then suddenly having a dialogue, and then a fight. And all this was just in your mind, and it's all an illusion because you were temporarily unaware that you are one with the highest source of love and light, and that you are love, and that you are a possibility. You are the solution. Like in you is everything. So then once you release that and you reawaken to be like, oh my God, I just had a nightmare. It's literally like you were asleep, you fell asleep. It's okay. Come back to like reawaken, because some people are like, oh, I awakened. Yeah, I awakened in 2011. But like, do you know how many times I fell asleep after that awakening? Like, oh, oh my God, I awakened again. Oh, what did I do? Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm the only one. I. It seems that I'm not the only one. But you're gonna fall asleep so many times, and then you're like, oh my God, I am one. I am one. There's not so many of me. So you act integrated, and you don't fall. But I mean, it took me many times to fall for that one. That I
Yeah.
thought that my higher self was what they call it as well as super ego. It's very interesting. So we have like a regular ego, like a persona, just you and your regular you. And then for those who are spiritual or like on a spiritual path, we have experiences, and we have illumination, awakenings, but then the ego, and then we come back to our regular lives, and then the ego becomes a super ego, because I am an awakened one. I know I'm connected to the
Yeah.
source.
It evolves
So
with you. It grows. Yeah, it accompanies you.
yeah, it pretends to be the higher self. And you know how it pretends? Because it's on you with it has like you mentioned it earlier, this know-it-all, but this like
Righteous.
heaviness or righteousness, and you gotta get it. And this is not how it, like the vibration, you check the vibration of it. If the vibration doesn't feel loving and expansive and of trusting, not the higher self. The higher self comes like a, you know, like a soft rain of light. And it's always like, here is the possibility of wisdom, but you can do whatever you want. Like you have your free will. And yeah, sure, you can bang your head again, because maybe the contrast of the pain will help you. And maybe you're going to wake up even deeper after you bang your head again. So the higher self will never make you be afraid or
Yeah.
like condemn you
Pursue.
or like be judgmental. That's a super ego. Okay, that's a fictitious God in your own mind. He's not God, definitely not God. So we may free ourselves from that.
Yeah.
It's not that, in my experience.
Girl, you don't know how much the words were such a blessing and then such a point. And I was like literally reading and then just taking in everything you were saying. It was so beautiful. Wow. I feel like we touched point about a subject that I think holds us dear, what is the ego? And you touched base a lot with the super ego. I love this term, super ego, really, because it's, on the outside perspective, it looks even smarter. It's like to like always, the witness of your growth, the witness of where you're getting. Like it's always, next to you kind of thing. It's very, very, very funny and funny. But to come back to the Trinity, I really, really, really love that perspective and that comparison. And if you may, I would love for you, if you can, give us an example so people can maybe, pinpoint more. How do they do this Trinity? How do they do this unification when there's this? And I love this fact that you said temporary and awareness. Like you say, it's constant, guys. We fall asleep, like you said, we awaken, or we go lower and then we go higher, and then it really is a dance and a journey. Truthful.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm so happy this resonated with you. And so the example, so I'm going back, it happened a couple of days ago that I had the word Trinity, but it's been a couple of times that the solution, the light solution, is always is in the middle, and so even this Trinity came in the shape of a heart to okay, it was so amazing. Like it's coming from one core, and then we split. So when we split, we two voices, two parts of us act as if two different energies, but then they were one, right? And then they are one.
Yeah.
They're acting as if we are yeah, as if two parts of us, when people speak it, when we speak it, we're like, on one hand I feel this, on the other hand I feel this. So obviously even in language we see it like
Separation.
apart, right? And then I saw that the heart came together and the heart closes in one, and that's the unity. But the kind of like the Trinity is getting us out of the matrix. It's funny because the name of the character in the matrix is Trinity, and she awakens Neo, the new one. It's, I mean, what a documentary. I love it, love it, love it. We should all rewatch it, all the four of them. So an example would be, let me get an example.
It doesn't have to be something, real or personal, but just you can make a fiction.
Yeah. I'm connecting with, in my experience, very often the example is as such. My persona Miruna wants to do something, but then she's afraid. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's a lot of she's fearful. Okay, the person, the human being is fearful. This is very risky. So the vibration is fear, let's say, okay, and in that moment. So a part of my mind, my energy is involved in being fearful and being like, oh my God. So then I'm kind of asking for help, right? So if I don't connect right away at my higher self, which what's above is below, so I go to my heart because my heart is my meeting my reunion house. Meet me in our heart. You know, my higher self, meet me in our heart. It's ours. It's not mine. It's not yours. It's like, because it's one, right? So if I don't get that, if I don't go there to just directly connect and get an inspiration or the courage or the love to do it, just do it. It may happen that another part of me, the ego me, it goes and it pretends as if it's the righteous know-it-all that is like, okay, so let me help you. It's still the mind, because it goes into the fixer or the solution, but coming from the mind, not the light, right? And then it comes to be a dialogue in between. I want to do it, but this, instead of just being a compassionate, light, loving, high energy, usually goes into judgment. If it goes into this dynamic, I mean, okay, if I don't go directly in my light, in my one self, and then it's like, well, if you do this, this will happen. If you don't do this, this will happen. So it just goes into, it's not an evil thing. It just goes into a very basic, more Cartesian mind. But because it's connected to like a spiritual identity, then it acts as if it looks for, the law of God. Is this permitted? Is not permitted? So it's more into like becoming a judge of me. And again, very righteous kind of tone. And so personally, I've had this experience many, many, many times on my spiritual path, specifically because I needed to get out of the freaking dynamic, which is it's a false God. It's a false higher self. I debunked it so many times. I unmasked it so many times. And finally, things got really easier. And things got really easier into every time I observe two parts of me. My job is not to entertain the quarrel or to
It can
see
last
who
long.
win.
Painful.
I drop them both, and I'm like, oh, you guys, okay, figment of my imagination. I just go into my heart. So I go into the third point in my heart, and I hear my intuition, which is not a chatterbox. It's just like, bing, like, just do that. No story, no explanation. Sometimes it will tell me, okay, be confident, do it, feel the energy of what you had intentionally and go for it. And sometimes it's like, actually, there's something else that you haven't seen or heard. And it reveals to me a third option that my mind couldn't compute, because it was thinking like,
Yeah.
is that clear how I explain it? I hope I don't get
We
abstract.
getting it. Yes. Listen, you. Thank you for taking up onto the challenge here. I'm challenging. I'm challenging the a very, I don't want to say complex, but very intricate concept that has just been introduced to us here, right? And so I thank you for trying that out, and I do understand a bit more. And so I would like to know more the third one. How did it come from? But from what I'm guessing is like there's like the inner child almost, or like the person that is fearful of doing that, that's smaller. And then comes for you, that's your personal inner battle, let's call it like that. The other one comes in and say, well, that happens, you should know that and know it all and experience that, and becomes a judge. And then it just starts ping-ponging. Then you go into your heart and into your intuition, and comes a divine solution, let's call it like that.
Yes.
Your divine solution, if I understand it correctly, is it like a you should do that? Is it just like a letting go? Is it like an action driven solution?
How it is? I love the question. The divine solution now, with the more I connect to my energy self, which also is for me a higher self. It's not my emotional self, my original energy self. It tells me, how it speaks to me is, it gives me the vibrational answer of the lead. So if I have an intuitive hit, so I have a high energy of inspiration, do this. It's going to, I would feel the pull. I would feel it's very high, it's very luminous, it's very benevolent. Usually it's completely selfless. So it's just like, do it. It doesn't matter. Like there's no calculation, blah, blah, blah. None of it. It's just like, do it. So the answer comes in energy. So I reconnect to the original energy that I received. And then the trajectory is being shown to me like, this will have this result because your intention is such, the energy that you're connecting with is such, hence it will be luminous. As an example, in our conference, okay, in our event, in the event that you created that I had the privilege to participate in, I got it as such. This will be luminous, it will be successful, it will be touching, people's hearts are going to come, it's going to multiply after. Everything I got, and I got that just in one sitting. Like I was sitting down, and I told you about it after, right? I told you.
No?
Oh, maybe I wasn't so specific. Well, I did tell you it will be wonderful. It wasn't just like a nice talk to I meant it. And then I know, but I did tell you there will be more multiple, and you'll
No,
see.
I think
Yeah.
maybe actually, but like that's the first time we really.
Okay, well,
Oh,
maybe I wasn't so specific. So I got that all in one sitting because the energy of it's the principle that it has been done. It is done. It is done because time really doesn't exist. There's no past and future. So if I get that, I can read what I got without actually having to move into action.
yeah.
So that is one specific. The more we connect with the energy or the feeling of it, not the emotion, the feel of the energy and the intuitive experience of who we are as energy beings, the clearer we are. So then we don't need to use a lot our mental. The mental is great to when it's time to actually do actions, like go move your body, write that email, wonderful. But it comes after, not before. The problem is it wants to hijack your core intuition, your feminine, and it wants to have the spirit. No, the spirit comes first, the action comes after. Spirit, body, spirit, mind, and body.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's the order of
absolutely. It's
things.
all
First
within.
the spirit.
Everything starts from within. What
Yes,
you project is what your world inside is your world outside. It's not the other way
yes,
around, right?
that's
And
right.
people
Yeah.
think, oh, if that happens to me, then I feel no, no, you felt like that unconsciously, perhaps that projected it. So I love the hijacking. Anyhow, I feel like are we're getting into such a deeper subject here. We enjoy that, we can tell. And there's so many topics that we can I feel like the intuition part, what is the ego? I love it so much. And for the matter of the time, respecting the timeline here, even though time is illusion, I have to cut it short. But I love it so much. And to reconnect that with our self-awareness, it's a question of practice, guys. You know, and I cannot wait when we're going to go to our next topic, when it's going to be relevant, to share exactly how do I tap into this intuition, actually, this higher energy. It all connects to manifestation, guys. And once you understand the frequencies, I know there's a lot of a lot of vocabularies here, but deep down, you understand a bit the gist of it, you know? But once you understand and hone and hook yourself into the divine frequencies, life is beautiful. So beautiful. And like you said, your third trinity, if you come to this point, the solution coming in, it's simplicity. It's
Oh yeah,
clean.
very simple.
It's there's no detail. There's no how many feet that we have to do that and that and there's no heaviness. It's light. Light is light. And
Yes.
I feel like we can use that example and use what you just mentioned about the trinity and copy paste it, I don't know, onto what is self-awareness. From where does it come from? Right? If you come from a place like, oh, I know that happens, I know this is my name, it's very mental, very calculating, very logical. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. We have to go through it. I went through it myself. I was justifying a lot of things and I was thinking that this is it. I know myself so much. I am so self-aware, right? But when you discover this higher self, and I think it comes with spiritualization of oneself, then you discover a new other beautiful layer of self-awareness that allows you to heal with a big H. It's a trampoline. It is a necessary step. So I hope we provided some clarity or answers that, you know, from our experiences.
Yeah, me too.
It was such a pleasure, as usual, to speak with you. Oh, I feel we can talk forever. And what do you feel like talking for our next topic? You will see, guys, on our next episode. Thank you so much. And yeah, we will discuss about it and we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, dearest one, so much. Thank you, everybody. We hope that our awareness and our love has been transmitted to you. And we'll be back next time. Yeah, I can sense a bit what we're gonna talk about it. What
Okay.
let's keep it a surprise. Yeah, you have to tune in
We'll keep
next
it
time.
as a surprise.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
guys.
Bye, everyone.